you're in a chess game right now against the most dangerous opponent you're going to ever face. Someone who knows every move you're going to make before you even make it. Someone who's been studying you for years, decades, your entire life. And here's the problem. You don't even know you're playing, which means you've already lost 1,000 times. But the moment you decided to change your life, you literally triggered this opponent into existence, the old version of you. Now imagine someone in handcuffs. That's you, handcuffed to your old frequency. You ever notice how you keep ending up in the same situations? Different people, same problems, different jobs, same frustrations, different relationships, same arguments. It's like you're stuck on repeat. And no matter how hard you try to break free, something's always pulling you back. And that's not bad luck. That's not coincidence. That's your old frequency. And it has characteristics that make it nearly impossible for you to leave it. Until you understand what those characteristics are, you're going to remain handcuffed to your present circumstance. So let's actually first explain how this old version of you actually is an entity that exists. The very first law of Hermetic principles, the universe is entirely mental. Within the universe is encapsulated the spiritual plane. The creation of spiritual entities is entirely a mental process. Now listen, I'm not here to give you some surface level BM other virtual grifters talk about. I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. You can't just update your LinkedIn profile or go to networking events or just buy another course or just buy this book. Your life isn't going to change with any of that. Not until you rearrange the inner workings of your mind will your reality be rearranged. As within, as without. That's the actual law. Before anything can exist physically, it must exist vibrationally. Think about your phone right now. Before it existed in your hand, it existed in a thought in someone's mind. And before your current relationship existed, it existed as a frequency you were holding. Before your bank account looked the way it does, it existed as a mental pattern. Everything physical starts with mental. Now, according to neuroscience research, the average person has about 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day. Think about that. 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts? And here's what's wild. 95% of those thoughts aren't the same thought. And here's what's wild. 95% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that you had yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. You're literally thinking the same stuff on repeat. And 80% of those thoughts are negative. So you're thinking the same old negative thoughts over and over and over again, thousands of times a day. I'm not good enough. I can't afford that. They're going to reject me. I'm always going to mess this up. I always mess this up. Nothing ever works out for me. Hundreds of thousands times a year, millions of times over your lifetime. Now you have to understand the first law of the universe, being the universe is mental, means that everything that is created is first a mental creation through what is considered thought forms, which is the simplification of how I want you to conceptualize thought forms, is a collection of thoughts plus emotion. So let me give you an example. You think I'm broke, and that's a thought. But when you feel the anxiety, the stress, and the shame around being broke, that's the emotion. Thought plus emotion equals the thought form. And that's powerful because your emotion is the largest shareholder of your frequency. Your emotion is energy in motion, which emits an energetic signature. You ever walk into a room and you just feel someone's energy? You can't see it, but you can feel it. That's their emotional frequency. And that frequency eventually compounds, which then materializes into a reality. And this is why you can't think, I want money while feeling broke, because the emotion is what's creating. And I want you to always remember my definition of manifestation. Manifestation is simply internally shifting to which you're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. When you're good with it and you're good without it, when anything will manifest. You ever notice how when you stop caring about something, it suddenly shows up? Or when you stop obsessing over that text, they text you back. When you stop checking your bank account every day, money starts flowing. And that's because you've detached emotionally. Now, as I said, what you have to understand is that when thought forms are repeatedly consistent, They give birth to an entity. When you continuously think in a particular paradigm, those thought forms create this paradigm, which then gives birth to this live entity known as the old version of you. It's literally an entity that's created from your thought forms. It is literally an entity that is created from your thought forms. Look at this. This is a ball made entirely of rubber bands. Now imagine each rubber band a repeated thought. One time you said, I'm not good enough. One time you felt rejected. One time you thought, I can't do this. If you had just one of those thoughts, one rubber band, it's nothing. It can easily be removed. Let it go, move on. But that's not what happens, is it? You don't think I'm not good enough once. You think it every single day, multiple times a day for years. You think the same thoughts over and over, thousands of times every day, hundreds of thousands of times each year. Each thought wraps around the previous one, layer after layer, thought after thought, until you have this, a massive, dense, heavy entity. That's what your old frequency is. It's not some abstract concept. It's thousands of repeated thoughts and emotions all wrapped up together, creating something real, something that has weight. It's dense. It's power over you. This ball didn't form overnight, and neither did your old frequency. You've been building it since you were a kid. Every time someone told you no, every time you failed and internalized it, every time you got hurt and decided, I won't let that happen again, layer after layer, year after year. And now it's here, dense and heavy and real. And it wants to stay intact. An entity is a living being. It exists on another plane of existence, a spiritual plane. You can't see it with your physical eyes, but it's there. Just like you can't see Wi-Fi, but you know it's real because you're connected to it. And when you continuously think in the same way, you give birth to an entity. Only thinks directly proportionate to how you train it to think. And I want you to think about it as a blind intelligence. It's not evil. It doesn't hate you. It was created from the way that you thought. And now it exists and it wants to continue existing. So think about this. If you have a job for 10 years and someone told you tomorrow you're getting fired, you'd fight to keep that job, right? Even if that job was terrible, even if it was killing you, you'd still fight because it was familiar. And it's what you know. That's what this entity does. This entity's job is to survive at all costs. But it's solely dependent on keeping you within that same pattern or paradigm, which is why every time you take a step forward, things go left or backwards. You ever notice that? You're about to level up and boom, the car breaks down. An unexpected bill, or maybe you have an argument with your partner, or there's some health issue that shows up, drama at work. It's always something. Think about, there's a film by Jordan Peele called Us. Those people had doppelgangers living underground, mirrors of themselves. You have a doppelganger in the spiritual realm that exists based on the way you've been consistently thinking. And it will do whatever it takes to survive, if that cost is self-destructive, to your own progression. Until you understand how the old version thinks, it will outsmart you every single time. Have you ever had those moments where you're like, of course this happens now, right when you're about to close that deal, right when you're about to start this business, or right when you meet someone that could actually be good for you, something happens. And it feels like the worst possible timing. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. It always feels like it's one step ahead of you because it is. Think about it as a chess game. And this is a game of metaphysical chess. And you need to know how your opponent thinks so that when certain things pop up in your reality, you have the ability to outsmart it. You can see the move before it happens because to the degree you can outsmart your old frequency will determine the ease of access that you enter your desired reality. Now, let's actually go through these characteristics one by one. The very first characteristic of how your old self thinks is it's needy. It's an attention seeker. Your old self is absolutely needy, like that ex that won't stop texting you, like that friend who always needs to have drama. It will do its utmost to get your attention. It's trying to get your attention because it knows that where attention goes, energy flows. So think about this. Whatever you focus on grows. If you focus on problems, you're going to get more problems. If you focus on what's not working, more things stop working. When you focus on the drama, you get more drama. Attention is a centralization of your energy. And it's like taking sunlight through a magnifying glass. Centralization is powerful enough to start a fire. And that's what happens when you give your old frequency attention. You're literally fueling it, giving it life, making it stronger. So part of being an attention seeker is that it's going to do something that forces you to give it your attention. And here's what that looks like in real life. You're trying to focus on building your business. And then suddenly you get this huge fight with your partner. Now, all that mental energy is on the fight. You're not thinking about your business anymore. You're thinking about the argument. Or you're about to launch something new and boom, the car breaks down or your laptop crashes or someone from your past hits you up with some drama. And now where's your attention? On the drama, not on your goals. So that's the game. You need to begin to see that your attention is an investment, not something you just give away freely. And the things that you're allowing to gain your attention, the issue here is that you've been throwing away your attention at every little thing, every notification, every drama, every problem. You need to invest your energy, your attention into things that reflect and bring a return on investment to your desired reality. So that when it pops up or does something to try to get your attention, you need to be able to ignore it. Now, what's typically going to happen when it attempts to get your attention is that it wants to frustrate you because that frustration acts as a particular glue to your old frequency. So think about this. Something annoying happens and you get frustrated. And what do you do when you're frustrated? You complain, you vent, you tell everybody about it, you post about it, you think about it all day long. And every time you do that, you're literally gluing yourself back to that old frequency. So frustration is a form of glue back to your old frequency. So every time some nonsense happens, random, out of nowhere, at that particular moment in time, it's like an alarm bell. Your frequency is trying something because the first step to any form of transmutation or transformation is a level of awareness. And you have to see the game to win the game. Attention. You need to make sure that you're investing your attention and seeing your attention as a currency, because the more attention you give it, the more energy you give it. The energy carries a vibration, which then compounds into a frequency, which then compiles into a reality. It's a cycle. And you've been feeding the wrong cycle. Characteristic number 2, it's sadistic. Now, the second way that it thinks is it's sadistic. Now, unless you're lucky to never grow up in a particular circumstance of negativity, most of us grow up in circumstances of negativity. Think about your childhood. How many times did you hear no versus yes? How many times were you told that you couldn't do something versus what you could do? And how many times were you criticized versus encouraged? And here's what research shows. By the time an average kid turns 18 years old, they've heard the word no over 148,000 times. 148,000 times compared to only hearing yes or positive affirmations about 5,000 times. That's nearly 30 no's for every yes, 30 rejections for every approval, 30 limitations for every possibility. No, you can't do that. No, that's not realistic. No, you're not smart enough. No, you can't afford that. No, that's too risky. And those no's, they stack up, building that entity layer by layer. Your old frequency thrives off of your negativity. And because it thrives off your negativity, it will create circumstances in your reality to enhance your negativity. And here's what this looks like. You're already stressed out about money, and then boom, unexpected expense. You're already feeling insecure in your relationship, then boom, your partner does something that triggers that insecurity. You're already doubting yourself about your business, then boom, someone criticizes you or you lose a client. It is blind intelligence. It doesn't sit there thinking, let me hurt this person. It just doesn't want to leave. So it will create circumstances to enhance the negativity because negativity keeps you locked in and it wants to make you burst emotionally. What it's trying to do is get an emotional reaction out of you because your emotions are the form of glue to your old frequency. And if it can get an emotion out of you, you're done. You're marked. Think about it as a video game. Once the enemy locks into you, it's got you. And then just about when you're about to make progress, it creates a particular circumstance that reflects that level of frustration to give you that emotional reaction. So it can glue you back to your old frequency. That's the game. Mastering yourself is a prerequisite to mastering reality. Until you can recreate yourself, you recreate your reality. People always say, fight your demon. I never want you to fight your demons. Why? Because you fight something, you give it energy. You acknowledge its power. I want you to disarm them, unplug them, their power over you. How? Through quantum energy techniques and clearing thought patterns. You need to identify the beliefs that they are originally formed from. What's the root? I'm not good enough. Where did that come from? I can't trust people. Where did that come from? Money's hard to make. Where did that idea come from? Remove their power over you by removing the beliefs so that they're dissolved and no longer exist. Because these entities only exist because you continue to feed them. And the moment you stop feeding them the energy of those old thought patterns, the moment you clear the beliefs that birthed them in the first place, they dissolve. They have no more power. Everything I give you guys to do is in the form of mental action. I'm not going to tell you to journal, write down your goals 50 times. I'm not going to tell you to go create a vision board, cut out pictures from magazines. What I'm going to give you is mental form of action. These are things that you do internally in your mind, shifting your frequency, clearing your energy. You have to have the awareness that this is the attempt to get your emotions. When something happens, to pause, to not react immediately. Ask yourself, is this my old frequency trying to pull me back? And maintain a form of emotional resistance. Don't let every little thing knock you off center, because the more you can begin to rearrange the within, the without easily gets rearranged. You need to alter the cause. You need to alter the cause to alter the effect. And the cause is always within. Your external reality is a mirror of your internal state. Now, the next characteristic, your old frequency is reactive. And it knows you're reactive too. Most of the world live in a particular form of reactive consciousness. Something happens and immediately they react. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they honk or they yell. Someone says something they don't like and they snap back. They get a bill, they panic. They allow their eyes to alter their mind. They live by eyesight. What they see dictates how they feel, and not what they really should be living by, which is mind sight. Mind sight is your ability to see reality from a higher frequency, which is simply beyond the illusions that exist. You see the bill, but you don't panic because you know the money flows. You see the argument, but you don't react because you know it's just a test. Your ego has a tendency to react immediately when something happens. It knows it can press your buttons. You will react. And through that reaction is what? Emotion. And that emotion acts as what? The glue to your old frequency. There's an aspect of you that has been able to be non-reactive, to sit back and observe, like, okay, I see what's happening here. Because once you're non-reactive, that's a representation of you being in a particular frequency, beyond the constraint of the illusions of our reality. It knows you're reactive. It knows that you're going to create this scenario where your partner upsets you and you're going to blow up, or you get an expensive bill. You're going to panic and stress and spin. It knows that you're going to react. It's got you marked. It's studied you your whole life. It knows exactly what triggers you. You need to gain a certain level of mental and emotional resilience and discipline. And here's a powerful question. Why should reality submit to you when you can't even submit to yourself? When you can't control your own reactions, your own emotions, your own thoughts, why would reality bend to your will? You're going to have the potentiality to exercise patience. When something pops up in your reality, give yourself some time before you actually make any form of mental investment, any form of emotional investment. Pause, breathe, step back. Don't immediately react, because just like the deer when it spots its predator, higher level thinking is shut down and it immediately reacts, trapped within operating out of a lower level of consciousness. You're in survival mode. And survival mode keeps you what? Stuck. Now, the final characteristic of your old frequency, the old version of you, is that it's scared. It's scared because you want to leave it. You have to understand this entity. It's had so much mental energy and emotional energy from you. Remember, 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day, 95% of them being the same, 148,000 no's by the age of 18, years and years of repeated pattern. It's been there with you throughout every single high and low, every breakup, every failure, every disappointment. It's been the voice in your head telling you, I told you so. And you want to leave it? You want a new reality where it doesn't exist, which means it's not going to be existing anymore. And it does something very, very sneaky. The trick that your old frequency will play on you is to project its fear onto you. So you get scared of moving forward. And here's how that works. When it can feel you pulling away and actually getting closer to your desired reality, you're taking action. You're stepping into your frequency. Things are starting to align. And it begins to get scared. Oh shit, she's going to actually leave. Oh shit, she's actually changing. Let me take my fear and give it to you. So then you begin to feel that fear out of nowhere. You're excited about this new business, and then suddenly you're terrified. You're happy in your old relationship, and then suddenly you're angry. You're all about thinking about making this big move, and suddenly you're paralyzed. And then you associate that fear with taking that step forward. Maybe my intuition, my gut feeling is telling me I'm right. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I should wait. And because now you're afraid to take that step forward, you end up not taking that step at all. You stay put. And then, due to the magic of the universe, that fear gets magnified. It gets magnified through creating circumstances that maintain, perpetuate, and give you something to be scared about. Very, very dangerous trick. And this is why you see all the time when people have been in toxic relationships and they've come across someone good, someone who actually treats them well, what do? They sabotage it. They push it away. They find reasons why it won't work. Why? Because the old frequency that has been created over years with toxic partners is now alive. And it wants to continue giving you bad partners because that's what it knows and that's how it survives. But now, when you can feel like you're getting a functional relationship, it begins to get scared. So it protects you and projects the fear onto you. You're not, it's too good to be true. They're going to hurt you eventually. You don't deserve this. And then the fear gets magnified through you. It's probably self-sabotaging yourself. You start arguments. You start being distant. You start creating problems where there weren't any. I see this with clients just before they're about to go to their next level. They're about to make the most money they've ever made or close the biggest deal, and then boom, they end up with a big fat loss or making a stupid decision, or they get sick, or they have another form of crisis. Why? Because their old frequency is scared and it projects that fear onto them. That fear gets magnified and compounded into reality, and that materializes as a circumstance that gives them something to be afraid of. So they get scared for real this time. And they're like, oh, I might as well just stay here, or this level is safe, or I know how to operate here. Think about any time you're about to make a move to the next level. You're scared. Why? Not because you're actually scared, but because the old frequency is scared and it projects that fear onto you. And this is simple. Once you understand this, anything that you get scared about in your progression, understand what it is. You're like, that's not me. It's you. It's you. That fear isn't mine. It's not afraid. I'm not afraid of success. I'm not afraid of love. I'm not afraid of money. That's the old me being afraid, and it's dying. And once you do that, you completely flip the game and you transmute the game entirely. The tables turn, and you're no longer the one who's feeling fear because you know the fear isn't yours. It's that old frequency protecting you, keeping you safe and stuck, and you're witness to it. You're not a participant. If you know yourself and the enemy, you don't need to fear the result of 100 battles. You know yourself, you know the enemy, you win. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, with every win, you take a loss. And you might win sometimes, but you'll always lose because you don't know how the opponent thinks. It's extremely metaphysical. The whole reality is a mental game. With that being said, now you know how your old version of you thinks. It's needy. It wants your attention. It's sadistic. It thrives on your negativity. It's reactive. It knows how to push your buttons. It's scared and it projects that fear onto you so that when things pop up in your life, and they will, you just best come back to watch this video again. Screenshot this, remember it, save this. Make sure you understand the game, what's really going on, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you can outsmart it. And once you outsmart it, you're free. It's a mental game. And you just learned how to win.